Institutional DeFi is one of the most important changes in this area. There are now a lot of people who don't know what's being done to achieve institutional DeFi on a big scale. This train also takes almost all of the major banks. This is without a doubt one of the most important things to focus on because institutional DeFi will bring in trillions of dollars. Just like I said before, why am I so sure about that? Check out what DeFi has done for cryptocurrency and shopping. Right now, DeFi is thought to be worth more than 200 on the chain. 1,000, yes, that only works for stores. Think about what would happen if big players used DeFi protocols and set up loan and borrowing pools along with liquidity pools. Like this could be the next big thing in coin. It could also be the time when cryptocurrency really takes off and a lot of people start using it. This would mean that not just trillions of dollars are traded on the chain, but tens of trillions of dollars. We already know that institutional DeFi is creating a full market for tokenized assets, which will bring in an enormous amount of money to the chain. Now that we think about it, Ripple did put out an enterprise DeFi on the XRP ledger in February. What's going on and what will happen next? They gave us a detailed plan that we should actually follow, right? It was like they had already given us all the real-time information on the XRP record. As an example, think about the DAIX claw, AM, clawback, and other great features that were slowly being added to the XRP ledger, such as decentralized identity. Our main goal is to make enterprise DeFi work on the XRP ledger. What was to come? We now have just about everything we were looking for. To begin, let us talk about the rights for token escrow accounts, batch transactions, and permission DEX. Second, the system for lending from a single asset locker and adding MPT DEX. The third quarter is finally here. With institutional DeFi at scale, the statement for the fourth quarter is only possible. If we're still thinking about this, we have important news is okay. This took place on June 25, 2018, which was a big lockdown for institutional defiance on the XRP ledger and permission DEX. By letting regulated users trade on the DEX of the XRP ledger using verified identities, it will make KYC data, FX swaps, reliable coin flows, and more possible. Again, a lot of people didn't care about this, but the foreign exchange market is one of the most important problems ever because it deals trillions of dollars every day. That's equal to 7.128 trillion. I'm going after a huge market. I think a lot of people should think about it, especially when it comes to XRP and Ripple's goal of institutional deflation. When Ripple buys things or does other things, the goal is to make it possible for the X market to join the chain. Why do you think there are already almost 7 stable coins on the XRP system this year? One reason for this is that the FX market is beginning to form again. They went into great length about what this means for the XRP ledger, what use cases we should focus on, and why this is the next step for the XRP ledger. This system has everything that institutional users need to trade on the Cheese chain and add tokenized things to make a full-on market. In addition to the important parts that talked about here, all the institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger, it has everything these players need for compliance, such as KYC and AML rules. In addition, they give us a full study of the flow. You know your passwords, the permission DEX, and the permission domains. This is all based on formal use cases and following the rules. The stablecoin and FIDFX changes are shown on the permission DEX by ROSD. While everyone was upset that ROSD was only being made on Ethereum, this told us that it would also grow on the XRP system. The last time I checked, Ripple was working to make sure that ROST went up on the XRP system. They don't care about Ethereum because it won't be the most important safe coin in the future. When they first created ROSD, most of it is based on Ethereum. There are also payments to contractors and employees. This is an extra choice for Prosper FX Rail, Prosper B2B payments, and Prosper Business Treasury payments. That's all there is to the XRP system. We have bigger enforcement efforts on the XR ledger as well. They will focus on these compliance issues for the ledger method to make sure that we be able to use the XRP ledger in more situations and on a larger scale. In addition, more and more players are still joining the chain for institutional DeFi right now. In this case, Northern Trust is one of the big banks that is moving toward business DeFi. This took place in June 2024. Deutsche Bank is also on the way to formal DeFi as of June 2024. We also have another one here. Institutional DeFi, the next big thing in finance, and JP Morgan were all involved in this one. It's possible for all of these big banks and other institutions to join the institutional DeFi chain. What's even stranger is that the XRP system is always changing and getting better to fit this market. For example, there are 28 votes in favor of the big shot to VetXO for this important building for an organization. There is a block that needs to go live on the XRP ledger in order to meet legal usage credentials. In fact, the start timer is almost ready along with some other fixed changes. Credentials are what make permission domains and DATEX work. They make it legal for groups that don't have access to the XRP system to use it. These kinds of native users can be easily drawn to the XRP ledger. The notice for the authorization DEX does, in fact, talk about this. We can use our IDs in a safe if we go back down here. Standard way to show information about a subject like a business or even an Internet of Things item. These credentials could come from a trust group, and other people could check them without ever having to talk to the issuer. This makes it an important piece of the puzzle, which is also explained here, and I agree with everything that is said. Because of this, big players in the financial world will be waiting in line to use the XP system. This is yet another clear sign that Ripple fully supports this. Also, let's go to this is the internal DeFi gateway. There is a platform being built that will help financial institutions connect their operation XRP and the XRP ledger tokenizing as sites that let people load and trade XRP and find blockchain use cases that benefit your business. All of this is for people who work in institutions. Once more, this is the strangest thing you can look at. Soon this will happen. Things aren't very clear for us to decide what to do. We are aware, though, that everything is built into this and that it supports some of the most important use cases for tokenization, stablecoin use cases, payment use cases, compliance, wallets, KYC and AML custody, and node operators are some of the major players in the space. These institutional players can find anything they want on this platform. In addition, Jazzy Cooper said that it is still hard to get money to join the project. It's messy, full of words, and hard to understand. We're making a better system that will have unified use cases and make onboarding easy. We'd like to hear your thoughts, whether you are exploring or creating. Also, the internal DeFi gateway was made public in March. This is the place to go for everything you need to know about educational DeFi use cases. What's even stranger is that the Ripple side has an open job. This person is the vice president of DeFi relationships with institutions. Here's a full list and everything that can be predicted. You will be in charge of the whole institutional partnership lifecycle, from finding and finishing high value deals to turning them on and making them have impact on the XRP ledger that it can be measured. You will be responsible for building relationships with Ripple X's most important partners, including asset managers, tokenization platforms, and stable currency issuers, while working with people from different departments. This will help turn the company's strategic goals into real-world usage, transaction volume, and ecosystem growth. This is a very important problem.